Right. I think we've got a good critical mass here, so let's just hop into it. We are going to make these lunch and learns available. We've had some questions about where these things have been living over the past month. If you've gone to the BN Digital site, I think you've seen that that's kicked over to BizNexus Concierge. That's really what we're calling our agency these days, just to save the confusion. So anybody who has been looking for the lunch and learns, we're going to be opening that up with our new invite that we have at the end of the month. So we'll get you access to those. So don't worry, those have not disappeared. They're just living in a different place. So stay tuned. You'll know in the next week. Today we are continuing on with our social selling theme for the month. After our break last week, we are getting back in with outbound social selling, right? So we're kind of revisiting, going back to our roots, talking about social selling. And today we'll be focused on outbound. We do have a very wide variety of attendees these days, and I do have to figure that out. I think in our new setup at the end of the week, that will help. I think we're going to be able to tailor this to different audiences. But right now, for example, I'm looking at the traditional intermediaries, right? That's really where we started with building BizNexus. The intermediary is the center of all of that in terms of connecting with buyers and sellers. And I'm a firm believer in leveraging an intermediary, whether you're buying or selling, if you can find the right one. So that's where we started. But now quickly, we're looking at a lot of individual buyers and fundless sponsors and private equity. Family offices have been really active. So we have all of these traditional buyer types coming into these deal origination lunch and learns as well. Some people have a lot of experience and some people are just completely new. So the only way I can tailor these things to make sure that they're valuable is if you give my team feedback. And so at the end of this lunch and learn, you'll get the prompt for some feedback. Please submit. We do this for free every week. We've been doing it since the onset of the pandemic. We want to provide that value, but the only way we can do that is if we get the feedback. So please take the 2 seconds just to answer. I think it's literally 2 questions, and let us know what you want us to zero in on. If you want to have follow-ups on any specific topic, or if we're rushing these things, or if we're going too in depth, whatever feedback you have, positive or negative, we want it. So that being said, if this is your first lunch and learn, who am I? Why should you care? I run BizNexus, and that is our platform for broker vetted deals, right? So if you're looking to buy a business, you'll get matched with the intermediaries who can help you with your deal flow, and you'll get matched with a ton of listings. I think we've got over 7,000 on the platform now. So you go in there, you set your preferences, financial metrics, geographic metrics, keywords. We rely heavily on keywords, and then you let us match you, right? We send out your matches every day at 2 p.m. Eastern, and that's it for BizNexus. If you're a buyer, seller, same thing. You come in, you get matched. We will match you with the best intermediaries for your particular niche. We also have BizNexus Concierge, formerly BN Digital, as you can see in this slide. That's our agency for managing deal flow. So that's everything that we talk about in these lunch and learns. When the pandemic hit, we decided to start doing these and start giving our tips from our playbook. And we've been doing that week in, week out. People have liked it. We've gotten a good response. The second that's not the case, we'll kill it, because it does take time, but we love it. And it's actually been really fun with our current clients, just digging into these topics and seeing how much more productive they are, but with just the general community that's obviously really focused on leveraging social selling for deal flow and all of the new tools that have become available while we've been focused on learning those throughout the pandemic. Updates for today, no big ones. We'll have another big one at the end of the month, but if you're an intermediary, just remember when you add a deal, you are getting suggested buyers now. So we're going to suggest buyers, mostly private equity and strategics, based on your deal size, based on the deal industry, geography, keywords. Buyers on our platform who have indicated those preferences, strategics, private equity groups we've researched, those are all suggested with your specific deal. So check that out and give us feedback. And then the content marketing tool has continued to grow. You have free content in BizNexus to share. And that's all broken down into buckets of buying a business, selling a business, business valuation, content designed to help you establish yourself as a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale to help with your social selling process. So what is social selling? If this is your first time on the Lunch and Learn, this is a graphic that we've really been showing since day one. This is basically our process that just reflects my philosophy that social selling deal flow, right? If you're looking at going out and getting in front of sellers over the long term. So if you're an intermediary looking for multiple transactions, or if you're a private equity group looking for multiple acquisitions, that is a long game. And these are the phases that we've broken deal origination down into, that we talk about every week in, week out. So if you're a search funder, or if you're out there looking for one acquisition, the long game might not apply as much to you. You have to be social selling. Obviously, you wouldn't be on this call if you weren't aware of that. But really, if you're looking for multiple transactions, if you're building up a niche, if you're looking to build up a deal funnel, right? If you're looking to build up an HVAC brokerage and you want to build up the reputation, you have to have a process like this in place. And every one of these pistons, so to speak, should be firing at all times to help capture and convert and let your target market know who you are, what you do, et cetera, et cetera. So this month, we're talking about all things social selling. That is kind of a general concept, so it covers everything. But we really are talking about outreach today. So this month, we went through just the huge update that we had earlier with BizNexus, which has been really great to see the traction on the platform since that release. Then we popped into the changes specifically on LinkedIn for the last Lunch and Learn, because I was traveling last week. So again, we're making that one available. We've had a lot of requests on making that live. That'll be available at the end of this week, so you can get back in there and go through the LinkedIn playbook. Today, outbound social selling, then next week, inbound social selling. So let's just get into it. Tips and best practices for deal origination using social selling. For outbound social selling, I put optimize your profiles in here as number one, just because you do have to make sure that your profiles are optimized for conversion before you do any of this. So we're not going to cover that today. We'll cover that next week, but just know that doing this without optimizing your profiles for your specific target, right? If your profiles, if your online brand is not speaking to the pain points of your end target seller, this is all worthless, right? You need to make sure that if you're bringing them in, your profiles, your online brand is set up in a way to speak to those pain points, but convert, right? To get that proverbial cup of coffee that we talk about every week, where you actually take these prospects from being online relationships that you've developed and nurtured and bring them into the real world for that cup of coffee, for the sit down, for the Zoom, for the discussion about, well, what would a business valuation look like? What would my exit options potentially look like, et cetera. We are going to chat about groups and forums, social listening, the importance of comments and DMs and what that means with social selling, especially in terms of getting your message out there. We'll touch on the algorithm and how that works, especially with LinkedIn, but with all of these platforms out there, and why we want to focus on that strategically. And content, social proof, and boosting. Sounds like a lot, but we're really just going to get in there and kind of play with social selling and have a conversation about social selling. So if you have questions, fire away. But the way this Lunch and Learn has developed, those things always come after the Lunch and Learn. So we'll see. Last time we had this, I showed this slide from my original IBBA presentation on not even on social selling. It was prior, it was just on digital marketing for the business broker. I think that was a few years ago. But this kind of holds true, right? So this is business owner Bob. That's the persona that I used in the presentation. And basically just highlighting the fact that Bob's going through an entire journey, right, to get to the point where he's actually picking up the phone and calling you to have a conversation about his exit options. And your marketing during each stage of Bob's journey needs to match, needs to be optimized for that stage that he's in. We're primarily talking about awareness today. Again, this is an old slide, so it doesn't cover exactly what we're talking about for the best tools that are available for outreach. But just keep this in mind. This general seller's journey and how you market to the buyer is a big piece of what we do on these calls and with our strategy. First up, groups and forums. These are great and they can be huge time wasters. So you have to be strategic. So you want to find, let's stay with the HVAC analogy. If you're an HVAC broker, for example, You want to find the groups, the forums where your end target prospects are hanging out and where their customers are hanging out. And then you want to get in there. So if it's on LinkedIn, you'll search hashtag HVAC, you'll search the HVAC groups, you'll search any of the potential customers of an HVAC company, get in there, and you want to stay active, right? You want to find your target prospects in those groups, and ideally separate the end target. So the HVAC owners of a company with 11 plus headcount, however you want to do that if you're in LinkedIn, and add them to a list. Well, you want to be careful here when you're in these groups with time wasters. We all know if you're an intermediary, if you're talking to buyers, that's your biggest time waster. So if you're in there and you're networking with buyers, they're likely to get on the phone, ask you a lot of questions. Ideally, you are vetting before you're wasting your time. If you're going to be engaging with prospects in a group, you want to make sure that you're speaking with those end target sellers if you're getting offline. So making a list in Sales Nav, if you're not familiar with that, when you're in a target group, you can filter. You can get in the group and you can filter by, by title. So job owner, right? If we look at, and I'm doing this on the fly, but I've gotten some requests to pop in here and do this kind of stuff. So we will. Let's see if we can find an HVAC group. So HVAC professionals, 140,000. Let's say title owner, 9,000. All right. Years of experience, say more than 10 years, right? We don't want any green HVAC owners because they're not going to be likely to be in a position to sell. Company headcount, let's say 11 to 50. All right. So now if I search these owners, ideally, whatever tools I'm using, whatever VAs I'm using, whatever admin help I have, I am narrowing this down so that I can see the owners who are in this group that I'm in. Now, I'm not actually in this because I'm not an HVAC intermediary, but if I were, I would pop into this group, and that would be a point of overlap. So if I'm going to approach or start engaging with these owners, that's how we do it. So you can select all, you can put them to a list. So I can create a lead list, HVAC owners. All right, so I'm going to create that and save. And what does that do? Well, if I'm actually spending time on LinkedIn, number one, when I pop into Sales Nav Home, all of their activity is going to post here. Now, if I click on leads, I'm not going to now because this is my personal account. I don't want to show my own personal leads to this size group. But if I click on leads, it's going to track specifically those leads. So I'm going to see the posts, I'm going to see the likes, I'm going to see the engagement. And if I go through and I start to engage with those owners, right? The reason I'm doing this, I'm burning my time on LinkedIn at all, is because I know that was just a list of business owners in the group that I'm in with at least 11 people working for their HVAC company, and they have at least 10 years of experience. That's a pretty nice target. So if I pop in and I start engaging with these owners, well, LinkedIn has gotten noisy through the pandemic, obviously, so you don't want to just start connecting with these owners. But what you can do is start viewing them, start engaging, reading their stuff, right? If they're in the group, comment, like, whatever you do, you're going to start showing up in their feeds if you're engaging in that way. Then you connect with them, then you do the whole process that we have for social selling so that you ultimately get to that cup of coffee, right? So we've had requests to pop into Sales Navigator, do this kind of stuff. If you think this is a waste of time, just put it in the feedback. I'm just going according to your feedback that we've gotten so far this month on the social selling. So that's just the Sales Navigator walkthrough on how we identify the owners and groups and leverage that little tool. Social listening. We had questions about this. We do our funnel automation. With our agency, we're typically, again, I'm kind of just going open kimono with the playbook here. So whether that's smart or not, we're sharing it, we're getting the engagement, and we're rolling with that. So we use Pipedrive. We love Pipedrive for simplicity. It's a great sales CRM, and we can tie in a lot of tools with Pipedrive. It plays well with other tools. But then for real marketing automation, we're fans of SharpSpring, mainly because it's just cheaper than HubSpot. I love HubSpot. We were on HubSpot for a long time, but the cost creep just killed us once we got scaled. So we made a move to SharpSpring towards the end of last year, and we've gotten really good with that. We have our clients on that who are actually on marketing automation, and we use a social listening tool in SharpSpring. What is social listening tool? Why does that matter? Well, it's a content hack, right? So if you're talking about nurturing your prospects mid to bottom of the funnel, staying in front of those HVAC owners, right? I can set up an HVAC chatter feed, right? And I can listen. So if I want to add a new feed, I can choose Facebook, I can choose Instagram, I can choose Twitter, I can use LinkedIn. I can find the HVAC influencers, I can find the HVAC companies, I can find the HVAC groups, and just pop those in here. And so if I spend 10 minutes in the morning popping in here, and I'm an HVAC focused intermediary, right? Staying with the theme of this call, very easy to pop in here and start liking these posts, commenting, sharing on your own, right? So if you've been building up a valuable network of HVAC owners and COIs, referral prospects, right? The financial advisors, the accountants, the lawyers, the niche consultants who are all playing in that HVAC world. If you're building up your online networks with those end target prospects, when you share, it actually matters. And this gives you all the content to share in the HVAC world, right? Like we said last week, a great strategy here is focusing on your customer's customer. So if you know who your HVAC owner is really interested in, who they're following, and you engage with them and you start commenting there and talking about the value of an HVAC, whatever to the HVAC customer, that's a strategy that we see working really well as well. So social listening is just that. You're setting up your competition, you're setting up industry chatter. If you have niches, you want to get that set up, and then you, or ideally a VA for less than $10 an hour, is going to go in there and engage with likes and thumbs up. And then at least, like, that's the bare level social selling that will keep you relevant with the algorithms. And when you have a valuable post, it's more likely to actually show up to these end target prospects that are your end target prospects. So there you go with that. That's social listening. Comments and DMs, right? Again, getting back into social selling. Everyone thinks of LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and using Buffer, using the BizNexus content tool as enough, just doing a post. It's not, right? You want to be commenting and sending direct messages more than you're posting. And why do you do that? Well, ideally, with what we showed you here, if you're sitting down on the couch for 10 minutes and you have the LinkedIn app, LinkedIn Sales Navigator app is actually much better for this than a desktop. So if you don't have that, you can download that. You can just flip through your exact leads and engage on an ongoing basis. Every time you do that with your end target prospect, you're engaging, right? Whatever it is, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, the algorithm is saying this person is relevant to you. So I'm going to show your stuff to them, right? That's what you want. So if you're focusing on the social selling process, you want to make sure that your social proof messaging about being a great HVAC business broker gets in front of that HVAC and target prospect. This is why that matters. You need to make sure that you are getting that message out. You're getting your message sent to the eyeballs of your end target prospect. And that's why comments and DMs and actually engaging with more than just a LinkedIn post, right? Where if you're only doing LinkedIn posts, you're probably getting crickets. If you're engaging at all with your end target prospects and your value prop and your content is at all good, you're probably getting some really wonderful engagement. Even now, after everyone's gotten on with the pandemic, the majority of people still use LinkedIn in particular as a sales platform, which is wrong, right? This should be a great platform to identify your prospects early on, begin the relationship, nurture, establish social proof, get them off LinkedIn, right? Get those prospects off of LinkedIn and get them to that proverbial cup of coffee. Content. Last week, I spoke a lot about content. We had questions about how, right? No one has time for content, especially if you're an intermediary. I go back to the 80-20 rule. So for me, and this is just my personal philosophy, right? Do what's best for you. Maybe you don't want to do any content. Maybe you want to do more content. I try to identify the 20% that I like, that I want to spend my time on, and that actually yields results. So, totally open here. The BizNexus newsletter has traditionally been very, very effective. And I've taken a hiatus from that this year just because I have not had the bandwidth. So in terms of writing the intro, doing all of that. I'm sure you've seen Ethan and you've seen the other players who are involved with the newsletter. That's a miss. I want to get back into doing that because I know that yields tremendous results for the platform, and I like doing it when I have the bandwidth. Stuff like this, I like doing this content. I love having the conversations about social selling, about deal origination. I do the calls. I do that stuff too much. My team's trying to get me off of it, but I like doing it. So that's the content that I focus on because I enjoy it and I know it yields results. That's my 20%, and that moves the needle for us, for me, for BizNexus. The rest of it, that's all outsourced. We have VAs doing posting. LinkedIn articles are great for social proof, but I don't have the time to write an in-depth 2,000 word LinkedIn article. So we're outsourcing that. Snail mail flyers, if you're an intermediary, this is great content. Think of this in terms of content. Once a quarter doing the snail mail flyer, just make sure that's going out, right? You should be minimally involved. You should just be thumbs upping the final design and messaging, and that should go out once a quarter minimum to your end target prospect, to the owners. If you're doing the newsletter, going back to what we do, if I'm doing the newsletter, I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm writing the intro. Everything else, all the filler stuff, that's my team. So the relevant articles, the relevant social posts, the relevant podcasts, the featured deals, whatever your filler is, identify that, get a good VA or an admin on it, make sure that they queue that up for you so that all you have to do is write your personal intro, and everything else, the call to actions, the confidential chat button to grab your prospects when they actually want to have a conversation about a business valuation because they've become familiar with who you are and your brand, et cetera, et cetera. Everything there should be set up by your VA, by your admin. You should be on the hook to do that small little piece, the intro, to keep it personalized and keep your personal brand there. We do content with BizNexus Concierge. We do that with partners. We are not writing that ourselves in-house, but we have approved partners we work with who know M&A, mostly blog posting, but we also do some social. That's sticky, so I try to stay away from it. I only do that with our clients who are on who are on our top of the funnel and mid-funnel solutions. But whether it's with us or somebody else, if you find someone who can do that filler content on an ongoing basis, it's hugely valuable for priming your prospects, for staying in front of your prospects, right? For reminding them, staying top of mind about who you are, what you do. Last piece here, leveraging social proof and boosting. I got some questions on boosting. That's a nice little tactic that we use, that we like. So the intermediary example, again, let's stay with that HVAC intermediary. If you have just sold an HVAC company, right? Ideally, you're on good terms with that seller right now because you just sold it for a good price. You did a good job. Make sure you get the visual, right? Make sure that you're using this for your content. So if you're out to dinner, or if you're on site and you're with the team and everyone's happy, and you get that photo, you use the tactics that we've shown you throughout the lunch and learns here to make sure that if you're doing a post, you're doing it the right way and you're getting the engagement. But then if you really have a high value social proof, like selling an HVAC company, if you have a photo with a really happy customer post-pandemic and you've just sold their company, well, that's highly relevant right now. And that's worth maybe not only following the organic tactics that we've shown you throughout here, but doing a paid boost. And so what you can do on LinkedIn is you can go into their advertising, right? That lives over here, and you can boost. We can do another lunch and learn on this. If you guys want us to actually walk you through this kind of boost, just let me know and we'll dedicate a lunch and learn to it, something along those lines. But you can boost that to every HVAC business owner in your area, and you can do that indefinitely, right? So you can set up that HVAC boost, and you can put in a trackable link that actually puts that HVAC business owner into another HVAC seller drip. This is a great way to get that picture of you with a happy HVAC customer selling their business into the top of the news feed, into the top of the feed for LinkedIn or across multiple channels, especially if you're doing retargeting, but to get that into the top of their news feed when they log in, right? So regardless of what garbage is in their LinkedIn feed, you know that you're going to be front and center with those business owners. Those eyeballs will get on that picture of you with the business owners, with the HVAC business owners, happy post sale. That's hugely valuable. And that is marketing 101. If you can show, don't tell, that's what we remember. Final tips. I honestly just use the same final tips from the last time we spoke because it's relevant and it's worth really drilling in. I've had a couple conversations this week that are frustrating with intermediaries where they're just focused on lead gen, right? Lead gen is important, but that's one step. If you don't look at this as a long game, if you're not doing deal origination across multiple channels in this environment, especially where the internet was noisy pre-COVID. Now, like, you just have to be doing this. You have to have a coordinated multi-channel strategy. We've had other lunch and learns on that. Social selling is that. It should be multi-channel. It should be a long game. The messaging should match with each stage here for seller Bob. It can't just be 3 cold emails and hope that you're going to get a transaction, right? Good luck. You need to lead with those cold emails or the outreach on the social selling, but you've got to put them in a system for staying in front of them and establishing social proof and making them warm and fuzzy about who you are, making them know that you are good at what you do, staying relevant, staying top of mind until they are comfortable to reach out, right? And ideally, you have everything set up so that you are capturing them, tracking them, identifying them when they're in that moment, when they're actually considering, hey, I want to have a conversation about, what my exit options might be, who my ideal buyers might be, what my valuation might be, et cetera. So that's the process. That's the lunch and learn for the day. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. Again, feedback, please. So you can also do this on BizNexus. So if you go to the BizNexus site, you'll see that we have a feedback button here just for the platform. So if you're on the platform, you like something, you don't like it, just pop in there, give us feedback. That's helpful, but particularly with the lunch and learn, I'd say at least 50% of the content that I talk about in these lunch and learns is based on what you guys ask for. So we do use that. If you want us to talk about something, let us know and we will address it. So thanks, guys. See you next week. Looking forward to it.